Good evening, everybody. Came in on one wheel, right on time. I was over at the 6:05 class aggravating them. Saying goodbye to that bunch I had this spring. Wanted to see them one last time. Hope everybody's doing well. I see that the time is upon us and we're at our last meeting. No need to look at the weekly schedule. Everything's due by Monday. Isn't that August the 5th, I believe I saw today? So you got until Monday to get everything turned in. Keep working on all your things. Make sure that you go back and see all the drop boxes and know you've done the work. Just make sure you've dropped everything in your drop boxes. Stars of the week are all of you. You made it through. We didn't lose anybody. So we're glad that we've made it this far. I have a couple of items before we get to your case study presentations tonight. A couple of follow-ups. I put one in just the last couple of days. The first one is I get asked all the time, what is a basic education? And we've talked about that all semester, that it's not being funded. Question is, what is it? I have a link to this in the last under tonight's session that tells you everything that a basic education is. And when you read this and you get an understanding of why no more money comes than what they do. I mean, there's not a lot here. Multiplication tables, cursive writing, don't do drugs, good citizenship, service to others. No, not very rigorous. A basic education in North Carolina, my point, is not very rigorous. So when it's said, Leandro says that every kid gets a basic education and we're not getting enough money. Well, it doesn't take much money to do what they've said. That's the whole idea. They don't get very deep into what you've got to know. A lot of it's just good citizenship kind of things. And so I always get that question. The other one is, and I'll share my screen again, is I've talked all semester long about if you don't follow law, you lose your house. Our job is we get sued not to lose our house and make sure we follow law and policy. Well, here's the other one. Here's the latest on Kim Davis. I've used her several times. The clerk of court that refused to do the marriage license for the two gay fellas. Well, now, of course, it says here she lost her job. She had to spend time in jail. She had a big fine. Now, the latest is she's been ordered to pay $260,000 in attorney fees as well. That's on top of the $100,000 fine she's already and the time served and losing her job. Again, she's been ordered to pay $100,000 in damages. She lost her job, lost her bid for re-election, lost her job, spent time in the jail. And the whole notion here is, just like Jerry and Cindy, the people from last week that wanted the principal to do this, hollered community standards, and we want, not in a small town and all that hooey. Where were they? I'm betting they're not stroking a check that $260,000 this woman is on when they were boosting her up and hollering, "You go, girl," and doing all that stuff for not following the law. That was her job, was to follow the law. Clerk of court. Remember, your job is law and policy. And no amount of Jerry and Cindy Hudson coming and pressuring you or people in the community attaboying you and boosting you up is going to save you if you don't follow law and policy. This is an example. She lost her house. She lost her job. She lost her liberty. She served jail time. She's never going to be able to pay off all these financial debts that she's got. She doesn't have a job. And so the notion here is, our whole perspective this semester is not to lose our house. And the way that we do that is we follow all law and policies. That's what this course is all about. All right. I'm excited over your presentations tonight. Who's going to be first? Who hadn't gone first? Somebody that hadn't gone first, go first tonight. Set us on fire tonight. I want to hear it. I want to see it. I'm so excited. This is the culmination of all you've learned this semester and last. I want to see it tonight. Show out. Tell me everything.
So if no one's eager to go first, our group would volunteer.
There you go.
We have gone first before, so we're
Go.
gonna let.
We gave people the opportunity.
All right, Macy, are you gonna share that?
Yeah, I got it. All right, so case study number 4. All right. All right, so the case study overview: concerns over their students' education were expressed by a group of parents to the principal, Eugenia. Due to the attention being paid to the students with special needs, the parents expressed concern that their children might fall behind. Eugenia asked her non-teaching technical coordinator for assistance in looking at the ways that the school's teachers handled inclusion in the classroom. Eugenia meets with her seasoned teacher to discuss her teaching strategies. The instructor shares the school's objective of providing an inclusive education for everyone and disagrees with the parents' criticism. In conclusion, some educators disagree with the approach taken to provide inclusion to the students, and they prefer that the school's specialist handled these students' needs.
So then we went into what does the law state? So there were a couple of laws that we looked at. Some we'll talk about on this slide and some will be discussed later on in the presentation. But some of the basic ones we looked at were the Individuals with Disabilities Act from 2004, which talks about an inclusive education for all students, no matter what their learning background, their inabilities, or their individual differences. Everybody should be provided with a sound, just education. It also talks about each student getting the least restrictive environment. So mainstreaming certain EC students in based on their IEPs, as well as in collaborating those students with IEPs with those students who do not have IEPs, so that everybody has an opportunity to learn and we have a more diverse environment. It also talked a little bit about FAPE, which is a free, appropriate public education that requires the school to provide students with the instruction and services that they need based on their individual abilities, which also went into Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, which talks about improving access to accommodations for our students with their learning disabilities. We also went a little bit further and it talked about the Education for All Handicapped Children Act, which was founded in 1975, which talked about mandating all public schools that are receiving any type of financial support from the federal government, they have to provide special needs students with non-discriminatory access to all education programs. So back to IDEA and that least restrictive environment and mainstreaming those students. Nice.
Nicole, you might be muted.
Hello, am I frozen? Hello? No, I'm not muted. I think mine is saying low bandwidth. So I'm here. I wasn't muted, but it's saying low bandwidth.
Okay.
So my screen is okay.
It'll help. People say that to me all the time when they don't have low bandwidth.
Go ahead. She might need to turn the camera off. Can you turn your camera off?
I told y'all guys, my husband. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, turn your camera off.
Yeah, turn your camera off, Nicole.
It wasn't muted. Turn my camera off, so that'll help.
All right, talk now.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. So how might the principal approach this and future meetings with her teacher? Is it necessary to choose one approach over the other? The principal should meet with all the teachers to discuss the parents' concerns and to make sure all students, but especially special needs students, are receiving access to education in the least restrictive environment. However, she should be having dialogue with their teachers, and she should really be aware of what is going on in the classrooms really before this parent actually brought this to her attention. So again, she should meet with her teachers and discuss how things are going in the school on a regular basis, not just when parents come up with a concern. And is it necessary to choose one approach over another? No, it is not necessary, but by law, the principal must address the issues that arise from the special education students and other students in the classroom. The law from 2015, North Carolina law statute states, basic education program. The General Assembly stated that all children can learn, and it is the intent of the General Assembly that the mission of public school is to challenge with high expectations each child to learn, to achieve, and to fulfill his or her potential. Within that, they do actually address that they should be teaching character education. The group talked about it, and we felt that this may be an area where the teacher that has been called to the carpet was trying to teach character education, in this instance, kindness. We also talked about the fact that within this statute, they also talk about teaching the children to serve others, which again is something that we believe the teacher that was called to the carpet was trying to do. Now, the question is, do the parents actually have these characteristics and these traits to be kind and to serve others? That was also mentioned that the school should be holding some type of educational session to bring awareness to the various different types of groups within the school. I'm done.
What is the path that Eugenia should take? Well, the first thing that she needs to make sure that she's doing is that each individual student's IEP is being followed. And all accommodations set forth by the team should be followed. As a principal, she should ensure that the teacher is using collaborative pairs, which represent all levels, so that you do not have high and low students working together. The teacher should create a classroom community of collaborative learners and teach each other that is in true Kagan style collaborative pairs, and that this is not happening every day. So we talked about how she was having the higher children help the lower students. If this is done in a collaborative pair Kagan style, it's okay to do that within the with instruction, but it should be in the lesson plan, and it should be not an everyday occurrence. It should be planned strategically. She can ensure this by looking at the teacher's lesson plans, doing walkthroughs, and having the teacher utilize a UDL type lesson plan that shows all the specific differentiation that she does for her low students and her advanced students. She also must ensure that all students are receiving core differentiated core instruction. It's not just the special education teacher's responsibility to provide for the IEP goals.
All right, for question number 3, it says, is one point of view more correct than the other and why? When we talked about it and we discussed this question, we talked about that the point of view of the teacher can be correct depending on if there was a planned activity in the lesson, in the lesson plan that fosters collaboration in the true Keegan style form. However, this should not be a daily occurrence, which is basically the same thing that Michelle said. It should be strategically planned and grouped according to multiple levels. And in this case, that is a description, it is unclear if the principal did anything other than just talk to the teacher. The parent's point of view is more correct because the teacher is not providing for the IEP needs of the higher students and the lower students if this is done all the time. The teacher's first focus should be on the core instruction of the standards with the appropriate modifications, and then differentiated instruction for individual student needs. The teacher should also have support of the specialists required by the IEP. And then our last bullet point talks about that the principal failed to research the teacher's methods further so that that led, to negligence on her part. And then we dig deeper into a little bit more with negligence. And we talked about that non-thesis is the failure to complete an action. Non-thesis can occur through omission of contract or negligence to take steps to accomplish a required task. And some of the things that we discussed that the principal didn't do, they did not conduct walkthroughs. They didn't review teachers' lesson plans. They didn't review data to see how MTSS was in action. And they didn't monitor how classes were composed in regards to federally protected classes.
All right, question 4 asked us about collaboration. So what type of collaboration from the children's families might the principal as well as the teachers be able to propose to improve an inclusive education program? How could they encourage and show appreciation for the diversity of all the different students and their learning styles? So we talked about a whole bunch of things and we narrowed it down to a few. We talked about broadening the school and community's core values to include DEI, which is diversity, education, and inclusivity. There's a whole professional development around that. And the principal could promote that environment to the teachers as well as to the parents so that everybody feels included in the overall school's mission and vision. They could develop and implement strong anti-discrimination policies. So make sure those protected classes are getting the services that they need, but that we are also not forgetting that those general education students are in the classroom as well. So they need to be serviced as well and not just working from a notebook. We needed to set norms of inclusion and openness in the classrooms for the students as well as for the teacher so that we could promote equity and diversity. Which are some of the things that we talked about as 21st century skills that students are going to need. The teacher needs to make sure that the principal and the teachers need to make sure that there are spaces for them to be able to collaborate, teachers with teachers, parents with teachers, teachers administration, just all the different groups, student groups, in order to be able to figure out, what is working and what is not. They want to make sure that that space is honest, it's respectful, it's transparent. There's no loops and holes. It's not opinionated, and it's all based on facts and data. We could also share the students' work samples, what their academic progress is. We could do goal setting with the students as well as with the parents. Create activities in which the students and parents could participate in, such as curriculum night, EOG preps, award days where parents could even get awards like Parent of the Year. As well as try to implement more parent volunteers in the school and in the classroom so that they can actually see what is going on when they do sit down in those groups and meet to discuss what looks like a appropriate education for their student as well as other students in the classroom.
All right, and then our next question was looking at, as an expert in learning and evaluation, what would her technical coordinator do to really support this and bring in this collaborative community? So we looked at it through a couple different lenses, one being professional development and that really core training, make sure everyone gets the information. We can't assume anything. Let's do this in PD or through staff meetings. Lay down those ground rules. What's your role? What's my role? Have the clear conversation, which is the research-based material for the inclusion. What is mainstream? Are we doing that? Are we doing a modified version of it? And how do we make sure that we're sticking to the law, educating all the staff members, making sure they understand what differentiated instruction looks like in tiered teaching. So through the whole MTS umbrella, from the low tiers all the way up to enrichment. How can we use the technology to support this as well so the teachers them feel like they have so much going on? And then we can look at in a lens of coaching and PLCs, what can this technical coordinator do or the principal do to make sure that there is a clear culture of respect? Are we using data cycles? Is there a walkthrough schedule? Is it consistent? Are they able to have peer observation? Good idea. positive and constructive feedback is being provided? Are we having discussions around the master schedule? Is that time appropriate there? Is each tier represented in enrichment or remediation session? And are we using our time adequately according to state mandates? I know this is in a different country, but and then how can we use data to drive that instruction? And then again, tying in that family so that if our family is involved, if we have these people that are coming through this PTA, then they're involved. Let's give them a role. Let's show them how we can be that partnership so all stakeholders can have a say and really play to increase our student achievement. So a lot of the resources and ideas that we talked about there is what Shakita just shared as well. I'll go ahead and read this too. So in question 6, we're looking at actions that then Sylvia can take with those families of the children in order to, learn and share their achievements. So how can we promote through class newsletters, spotlights on what our students are doing, really, market the school and market our students like we talked about in our last evidence. How can we implement those curriculum nights and really come together so that the parent-teacher organizations, the committees, they're really all on the same page. So a little bit repetitive, but really tying in some specific ways there that this school community can grow in all areas involving all of the stakeholders in the building.
Excellent. Wow, give yourself a hand. That was great. I think you hit every note. I took all of my notes here. Now, I'm going to talk about a leadership function that's not talked about very much. And it's the same thing as being an adult. And that is just because you can doesn't mean you should. Now, here are the things that highlight in this case study, things you could do, but you shouldn't do. All right, let me work through those. Taking a curricular program like Kagan, which is a whole system of cooperative learning, and pulling individual pieces of that out. Let me caution you on that. Sometimes those programs are controversial. People have read online things about them. If you don't have the protection of your district, and if you haven't done the full PD on those, I would caution you, don't pull things that have a name that people
You're frozen.
can get after you on about. Kagan is controversial. We all know that. Says my connection is unstable. Can y'all hear me? I'll turn my camera off.
Can now. We didn't hear what you said about Kagan though.
It's controversial. Kagan is controversial. I'll give you an example of something similar. I was in a district that did Dunn and Dunn's learning styles. That's Dunn and Dunn is a husband-wife partnership, 2 professors, and they had a program called Learning Styles. Now, even though the district supported it, paid for the professional development, it was controversial because it didn't look like regular school. Learning styles is about changing the environment. You take the desk out of the rows, you have learning centers, you might have lofts, you might have low lights, those kinds of things. Doing that on your own, stepping out front, you get a lot of community flack a lot of times. So you got to be careful on adopting parts of a well-known program that might be controversial. Yes, you need to teach teachers how to do cooperative learning. I just wouldn't hook the Kagan title onto it. But they do need professional development and because cooperative learning is a standard. It's one of Marzano's 9. But when you put Kagan on it, all of a sudden, you're likely to get some blowback in your community. That's the first one. Now, second one, just because you can doesn't mean you should. I would never use parent volunteers to deliver instruction because it can't depend on them. If something else comes up in their life, they don't show up. And then teachers have to adjust their lesson plan on the fly. And pretty much what you find is it wears teachers out to manage parent volunteers if they're involved in instruction. If they show up, we can make some things for them to do, and we can have some ancillary kind of things to do in our classrooms, and that's wonderful. We want them to be involved. But you heard me say, don't ever have them involved in direct instruction. I've seen people try to do that. It never ends well. The teachers say, you know, it would have been a lot easier for me to do it, and I would have done it better. You're working me to death, trying to work the. Every parent is just like everybody else. They're not all the same quality, folks. And they're untrained teachers. Why would you have them involved in your direct instruction program? Not smart. Yeah, you can do it, but again, it's not going to go well for you. You need to be very specific in how you use parent volunteers. I would not use them as tutors. I absolutely not. That would not be my deal. I have made that mistake myself. And so I that's just, you know, you live and you learn. Only people that are paid to be there would be involved in direct instruction, period. You just really need to be careful on that. So again, the whole notion here is, y'all covered everything. Be careful of the things that you can get a parent group opposed to or behind. Be careful that certain parent volunteers come in and want to teach what they won't teach their content. They won't teach their point of view, their political stance or whatever. Ooh, you got to be so careful with that. What they want to do with kids, I just can't, you know, I just don't trust parents. I want them to be involved, and I need for them to be stakeholders, and we need to incorporate them, but I can't trust them to deliver instruction. That's a bridge too far for me. It just really is. It's just a bridge too far. So be careful on that, and be careful adopting done and done, Montessori, Kagan. What's that other one that I'm trying to think of that's highly controversial? I mean, just like we've been doing some of the things from Common Core for years, but when we put a label on it, what political party just lost their damn mind? Pardon my language. They just lost their mind. But we've been doing that stuff forever. But again, that puts a target on your back. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, rate this principal's performance. She didn't get out of it. She didn't know what was going on in the room. She didn't do any professional development. She didn't do any parent skip nights for inclusion education. She didn't do any PD on that. She didn't know what when parents came and complained, she went and sent somebody else to the room who had, you know, no business being there. What was going on in the room probably violated both the IEP of the EC kid and the IEP of the AIG kid. I'm sure neither one of them said get taught by somebody in your room. Can you find anything good in what she did?
She did take some type of action.
She sent somebody else only because parents came and complained. And that was just, you know, but yeah, she did do that. So the first vote was for 0. So my vote would either be 0 or 1. If you say, well, she did take some kind of action, you could give her a 1. It wasn't the right action, no.
Yes, but
what have we learned? What have we learned this semester about negligence? Misfeasance, malfeasance, nonfeasance. You know, had a duty to act and didn't, or did the wrong thing. She did the wrong thing. Sending somebody else was the wrong thing. Yeah, she took an action, but it was the wrong. Was it an intentionally wrong action? No, we can't say it was malicious, but it was certainly misfeasance. It was better. I guess that's better. I don't know if that's better than nonfeasance, not doing anything at all. But it's not, you know, the idea that just do something even if it's wrong, that doesn't work here. That used to be, yeah, I used to hear that all the time. Let's do something even if it's wrong. No, that's not, sometimes that's worse than doing nothing. Doing the wrong thing. Yeah, it was the wrong thing to send Ismail. So can you think of anything else she did good here? You know, I'll give her credit. It didn't say so in the case study, but I'll assume she didn't wet her pants that day. So I will give her credit for that. So I'll give her a 1. But other than that, I can't speak very highly of her administrative ability. This is an example of everything that you can do wrong. The only action you took was the wrong action. Obviously, hopefully we won't, you know, you've never had to work for, or you're not one of these kinds of administrators. But each of these problems, as you folks so eloquently pointed out, and I really loved your presentation, there's a fix to all this stuff. This is not rocket science. There's a fix to everything that was wrong. You say, God, this was a mess. Yeah, it was. But there's a logical fix to all this stuff. And we know you've got the skill set. You just displayed it to know this got this problem. We can fix it with this. We can do this. This is the law. We got to do the inclusion model, but we need to do PD with our teachers. You know, we can do this. We can teach them how to do cooperative learning. If they want to do cooperative learning, that's one of Marzano's 9. We'll teach them how to do that. But it can't be the heart of your instructional program. It's just one of 9 instructional strategies. And so the idea here is, in this one, was to A, identify all the things she did badly, and B, come up with a solution to those things. And you did that, every one of them. It's as good as I've seen. That was excellent. Thank you. I just marvel if you'd had a better instructor this semester, how good you could have really done. All right, let's move it on. Who's next? I love the presentation. I'm going to call on somebody if you don't hurry. Melissa, your group ready to go?
Yes, sir.
Go. Hurry. I think the bad storm has passed. Just as soon as I say that, a big lightning bolt will hit and I'll lose my power. I think things are settling down here.
It's a little slow there, but
Okay, just a summary. It's a semi-rural village in Chile's central region with 300 students, 28 teachers, 2 administrators, 2 specialists. 60% of students are disadvantaged, excuse me. Parents actively support the school, but there are several parents with a concern about test scores and integrated education. They feel Sylvia is choosing special needs students' needs over their own children within the same class. Eugenia feels that inclusion of all students is essential to the school's mission and felt strongly that her teachers were doing the right thing in the classroom. Eugenia gathers the facts by listening to the parents' concerns as well as the teacher concerns, ultimately a meeting with teachers from both viewpoints to address the tensions to find a balanced approach to special needs education within her building was conducted.
right. So Eugenia has a lot going on, and even though she says that she is totally on board with the full inclusion and that she's observed teachers working towards the scores, she seems to have no idea what's going on in her building. Even when Ishmael checked in things, you have Sergio in 4th grade who gets high scores and believes that special education should be done to specialists. Sylvia, she has an inclusion type model with no SPED support, and she's emphasizing the curriculum and like social emotional skills working together. 3A, according to parents, is higher performing. Rodrigo down in 2nd grade, he believes parents are overreacting and takes the other side as to what would the SPED parents' voice be. Eugenia really needs to be more clear about what her expectations are for working with the students. And then on the same line, if these students are in the special education program and do have an IEP, all those parents were in an IEP meeting, including the teacher. So they would have had to sign off as to what was going on into the classrooms and how those classrooms were going to rearrange, especially if we are doing an inclusion type model in the classroom. As the principal, she had a responsibility to ensure that her staff knows what's necessary for providing SPED services, verify that staff were implementing these services,
And then, have clear data that supports what's working, what's not working in regards to these 4 different classrooms have different things going on. And she should really be the chief advocate for all of her students, especially those with disabilities. There doesn't seem to have been any meetings with teachers previous to this claim being made by these parents. And she doesn't necessarily need to choose one approach over the other, but she really does need to speak out to parents and teachers alike to what the expectations are and what the outcomes should and will be.
I like your chart there. It's good.
So what is the path that Eugenia should take? Acknowledge and validate concerns. Parents, Eugenia should acknowledge the parents' concerns, ensure that their feedback is valued and would be considered. She should also communicate clear expectation in school that the school is committed to providing quality education to all students. As far as the teacher, she should also validate the dedication and efforts of the teachers, always support and back your teachers up. Gather comprehensive information. Eugenia should have conducted thoroughly classroom observations, review student performance data, speak individually with teachers, including Sylvia and others to understand their approach and to speak to specific needs. She could also consider perspective of parents and special needs children to ensure a balanced view. Promote professional developments, make sure that there are workshops. I know different districts give these kinds of things. As well, encourage collaboration and dialogue. Develop a unified approach, enhance communication with the parents. Monitor and evaluate. So after she's done all those things, implement a plan to monitor inclusive education program to assess and its effectiveness, and also ask for help if you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Is this something? In this case, there were 2 main points. Oh, I think this is me too. This is Leanne's slide, but we're just going to read it for her.
Okay.
So full inclusion approach, advocated by Sylvia. This approach emphasizes the integrity of special needs students into regular classroom with the belief that all students benefit from learning together. And it supports the idea that teaching peers is a valuable way for more advanced students. And then specialized support approach is the perspective. So basically, allows students targeted instruction tailored to their unique needs. So the best, I think, approach would have been like a blended model. So like in-class support, pull-out services, and peer collaborations. But again, you don't know what you don't know, so ask for help. Or like today, personally, we had a principal come from a different elementary school, and my principal just gave her the master key and was like, "You want real life? Go see it." And it was like good to see. We had stuff off everywhere, but it was good to see. So she asked for help of how we monitor things. So I think that's also and the ultimate goal was to create a inclusive environment that supports the growth and development of every student. So basically, nobody's point of view was correct. Is she on here? Is Kristen on here yet?
I am. I have slide now.
Okay.
I don't know.
What? You don't have this slide?
No, but I can read. I can do it.
Okay, I'll keep going if you want me to.
I didn't know. I don't know.
Okay. So collaboration that from the children's family in order, regular communication, transparency, parent education and workshops, basically things I said in the beginning, involved in classroom activities. And I think you were right about, Dr. Lynn, when you were like saying you wouldn't let parents give direct instruction. What I have noticed, I know I've been super stressed because I've been from a smaller school and I haven't been in a big school in a long time. And I told y'all Durham was doing like the growing together. Well, our school was A. So now they're trying to make some other school A schools. So we were a lottery school, but now we're not. We're a zone school, which this school is not used to getting kids all year long. And we're at 876 kids right now from a 600 school. We don't have spaces. We're trying to get teachers. Like I have 8 kindergarten teachers, 8 first grade teachers. So it's just been a lot to deal with. And I think that's important too, because this is a parent involved school and they want to take over because they're used to the old way. So they're not used to all this stuff. So I think that's important to give them boundaries of what they can and cannot do. We can go to the
Yes.
next slide.
And remembering parents don't worry about things like law or policy, especially when it comes to exceptional children. And I'm going to ask Melissa a question in a minute here, but yeah, that's part of it too. You can't trust them to do direct instruction. They don't worry about carrying out the law or whatever the program the districts decide to do, whether it be inclusion or mainstreaming or whatever. They're not interested in that. And so you're taking a big risk to let parents do that. I'll just tell you.
Yes. And some other things is supporting learning at home, create parent support groups, special need groups. Melissa's very good about this too, of sharing like things. This is her lane. So she's always giving us like advice about what to do or what right. So we always go to her for questions about that kind of stuff. And then collaborative events and projects and like make sure it tailors. Sometimes we do have family nights or events, but it is not for all children, especially like ESL especially special need and ESL, because we don't have translators or we don't have things. And it's not just Spanish speaking students. We have a lot of different culture and diversity at our school. So making sure we do collaborate with all students and look at feedback surveys, print out Google Forms and things that they can do and take it back to your school. That's all I have.
Okay, so what should Ismail do to integrate and create some harmony? Some of the things that they could have done is create professional development opportunities that focus on inclusive education and best practices in special education. Go back to the mission and vision statement of the school. How does it align? Remind teachers of the mission and vision of the school and how it integrates inclusive education for all students. Have conversations about inclusive classroom and integration education of students. Present laws that are relevant to the conversation, reminding teachers what we must do to meet the criteria. Excuse me. Have teachers perform peer observations of each other, be ready to give and request feedback concerning the things you see or do not see in the classroom. Have an open dialogue amongst grade levels, but as coordinator, be ready to step in and mediate the conversation. And remind teachers that we are here for students and student outcomes, not what the teacher wants. In addition, present grade levels with case studies of successful implementation of inclusive and integrated education.
All right, so the next one was what actions might Sylvia take with families and children in questioning to show that they're achieving their goals and what they observe in the class. I said that to support basically the gen ed students, ensuring she could do like differentiating instruction to meet like the diverse needs of students, providing that additional support into the classrooms to help like with enrich programs with the kids to make sure that they are meeting their goals and like she's pushing them further than what they are doing in the classroom. And implementing regular assessments to monitor progress. She can also have like professional development for the teachers and like just grow the parent-teacher partnership, just to invite the parents in the classroom or to see what the kids are doing in classes, sending things home, also showing the achievements of the student, just so that she's showing that balance in the classroom without lacking in other areas. Promoting peer support. So some of the other kids that are maybe struggling in the classroom, as she pair them together, sometimes kids learn better when their peers are teaching them different strategies. And then just also recognizing the students' achievement in the classroom would help address parent concerns and ensuring all students thrive in an inclusive educational environment. Parents like to see things, they want to see what their kids know and what they can do. So
yeah, those parent conferences, have kids lead those and have all the work product. I love that, having the kids lead the parent conference so parents can see what the kids are doing. I think that's a great idea. Absolutely. And I like, Kristen, that you pointed out the basic ed kid, when you've got AIG and EC in the same room, the basic ed kids get forgotten, don't they? That's why I put that basic ed law under this one. We lose our focus. Now, let's think about it. Somebody that did the master schedule knew what this teacher wanted, or she told them what she wanted. She wanted the AG and the EC so she could have the AGs teach the EC. That didn't happen randomly, did it? But
No.
again, we didn't follow the law. What's first rationale? Follow federal law. We didn't do that. We put all of them in the same room. The principal didn't even know that. So do you think the principal made the master schedule here?
No.
No.
And that's our issue at the school that I'm currently at. I'm a school counselor as my real job. And like sometimes the master schedule gets pushed on us, like creating a master schedule.
Yeah.
And I had to like stand up in one of the meetings, like, hey, we're not in the classrooms all the time. So we don't really know all the kids' needs and what they need.
Yeah.
So you have us creating a schedule based on like Power School, but like we don't know, like these inclusion classes, they need to be like data driven. Like you just can't put random kids into one class. So we had to advocate for ourselves not to be over master schedule.
That's exactly right. We go federal law, state law, local board policy, and then that, that performance data. That's what we're talking about. I mean, there's a way to do this. Now, but again, this is a bad master schedule. They've done a bad thing here putting this class together. Whoever did it wasn't concerned about law, so it probably wasn't an administrator that did this one. Now, I have a question for Melissa. And this is a legitimate question. I hadn't been full time in the school in a minute. But from my time in school, one of the things that I used to have to say, and it was ugly, was I sometimes had to tell teachers, and sometimes I had to tell principals when I was in the central office, today's my day to be in charge. I'll let you know when it's yours. This is how we have to do things. When it comes to federal law, unfortunately, this is how we have to do things. Now, Melissa might know something that I don't, which is entirely possible and mostly probable. But pretty much when a district declares what their EC delivery model is going to be, is there much way to modify that? It didn't used to be. I mean, when you say we're going to do the inclusion model, can some other schools say, nah, we're going to do mainstream?
It has to kind of be set up, and there has to be justification. Like in the building I work in right now, we have inclusion classes for both SPED and ML, right? And we have for ML, I know, like we start where they have to be a level 2 or 3 in order to be receiving inclusion. And I'm assuming that within the SPED department, they have qualifications as to what qualifies that child to be in inclusion.
Right.
Versus we also have more severe classrooms. Those are the ones that are going to be taking our alt SC, but then we also have some classrooms. We have 2 classrooms where they are there all day, but they are they're just taking modified core content with that teacher all day. So I mean, those things have to be set up. And we did have an issue last year where somebody was put in to a wrong classroom based on their transcripts for another school, where they should have been doing more of an inclusion model, where they should be in regular ed classes and getting just inclusion support in their classroom. And that's usually a push in plus a lab. That's how we do it. So it's like you either get push in with a lab or you get push in. So that's how we do it between SPED and EC.
Yeah. So in the end, this stuff is really driven by the model your district's going to do and by the IEPs, PEPs. There's not a lot. My point is, there's not a lot of options here. I mean, in talking about teachers say, well, I want to do it this way and I want to do it that. It's not what the teachers want. It's driven by what the kids need and what the district has set their delivery model up that they're funding and hiring for. Remember, you've got to hire for this model. You got to have these people. And, the district says, we're going to run this model and this is how we're going to hire and this is how we're going to staff. Okay. And the IEPs say this. Where in there does it say teachers can decide what they want to do or not do?
Right. Like in my son's IEP, it tells you specifically what classes he has push-in services and what classes he doesn't. So then that's where his accommodations become really important. On the classes where he doesn't have the push-in support, he has those accommodations. And then again, on the ML side of it for ESL, ML,
Yeah.
you know,
Multilingual for
we
those of
have
you.
to be,
Yeah.
you know, very particular about how those children are placed. When I came into this school, I was the instructional coach. It was like first day doing observations. I went through an ML teacher's room. I came out and found the principal. I was like, no, you can't do this.
Yeah.
And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, his ML person had made the schedule, but she had 6 kids in a classroom with her that stayed with her for 3 hours a day every day. I was like, they're juniors and they don't have a single English class since they've been here.
Can't do that.
Like, you can't put them in a lab.
No.
You have to designate what is that lab for. So we've been pushing the last few years in formulating labs that are, you know, we have our what we call boot camp labs. Those are the ones
Yeah.
to get through access. So we're focusing on writing and speaking, and then, you know, we have language acquisition labs.
Yeah.
So you have to be very, you know, particular about, and like it's written in the iLab,
Yeah.
what courses they're taking. We have to report to our district, who then reports to the state department how we went. That teacher that year had 41 waivers from the ML department. I've been in education over 20 years. I've seen 1 waiver. So to have 41 waivers done for ML in a single year, something that parents are not supposed to know about. You're not supposed to mention the waiver to anybody. You know, that's something that if they ask about it, you can give it. But it was like a big red flag that we were violating civil rights of these children by not providing them the proper instruction.
Yeah. The waivers were that was the evidence against yourself. That was a guilty plea. Oh my, people need to understand what a waiver is. Waiver's not a good thing, folks. It means that we're not delivering something we're supposed to give.
No.
21.
41.
40, oh my God, 41.
She
unheard of.
resigned during week 2 of the school year that year. And that was resigning before it really came out what she had been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. This is about your job. But what we're talking about here is the example of rationale 1, federal law, versus rationale 5, teacher input. That's what we're talking about here. You say, well, we'll make teachers, we can't let them do it their way. We have to schedule it by federal law. The federal programs come first. They're the most restrictive. It's what we're talking about. That's what drives the instruction, not what teachers want over here on their end. We can't do that. They'll never want what's worse for them and best and meets the law. If they have to choose between law and what's good for them, they always choose what's good for them. Always. You can't let them have that. You can't say, well, they'll do the right thing. If I give them the authority to do this, they'll do the right thing. No, they won't. And your job's the one that's on the line. You've got to understand that. When we talked about scheduling this year, the master schedule, which is the heart of our course this semester, we started with federal law, state law, local board policy, performance data, and then teacher input in that order. And this is the personification of that. This is what we were talking about. You can't let teachers just have their own opinions or decide, well, I think it ought to be this way, or I think it ought to be that way. That's what we're talking about, teacher input. You can't allow that. They'll never pick the right thing. And even or they'll never pick the same things anyway, and it'll all look different and go crazy, and parents will, you know, have pitchforks and torches after you. So the whole notion here is you can't let the teachers. It's just like parent fundraising. You can delegate the activity, but not the responsibility. You can delegate the activity of scheduling a school, but not the responsibility. They'll hold you accountable when it doesn't come out and you're not meeting law and you get sued and you lose. That's what you've got to understand. That in essence, this case mirrors that whole notion of how do you go about scheduling school. And you can't just let people I want to do this, or I'm not anti-teacher, but I'm anti-losing my house and my job. And again, I circle back to today's my day to be in charge. We have to do it this way. I'll let you know when it's your day to be in charge. But if we're talking about my job and my career and what we're delivering, and I'm being champion for these kids, we have to do it this way. You don't get an opinion, you don't get a vote. Sorry. You can't go to court and say, well, all the teachers wanted to do it that way. That's why I broke the law. Well, of course they did. But you were supposed to be the adult in the room that said no. That's what we hired you to do, was to say no, we have to follow law and policy. That's kind of how this goes. Now, you can be nicer than I am, but you can't be, but you can come up with the same decision and express it in a different way, but there is no alternative decision here. There isn't a different way to do this. This is driven by federal law. This is what we must do. I can't say that strongly enough. But now, if you want to be a champion for teachers, this is what we're talking about. You can make them happy and lose your job. And they'll say, boy, we really like working with him, too bad. And then they don't even think about you ever again in their lifetime. That's the nature of the beast. All right, moving on. Great presentation.
Dr. Lamb, Dr.
Yeah.
Lamb. Okay, so the storm took my group.
Yep, I saw that.
Um,
I knew it was coming. It just rolled over the mountain and hit me, and I knew it was going to be on top of the mountain for Heather. And so in the west, it's real bad right now. It's gathering up to hit another one here. So you got two options. You can just upload. I know y'all would have done a great job, or y'all can come back tomorrow night and do it again. I'll be back on again tomorrow night.
Yeah, I have to work until 10 tomorrow, so I won't be able to.
But
yeah.
I trust you. I've seen you work all semester. I know you've done a great job. I hate you didn't get the opportunity, but I know it's the weather is really, really bad. I've got a backup computer up and going and a backup internet. It's a miracle I hadn't lost mine as bad as it's been lightning here. It hit somewhere near here. I heard it. And so, yeah, everybody's either on their phone or their computer. So I think we're done tonight. I think for everybody's safety, we'd probably need to get off tonight. It's our time is up anyway. We're right on our time. Y'all have done a great job this semester. I couldn't be more pleased. I've been so proud of you. I love this course better than anything. This is the best. The only time that seems too short, as Jackson Brown said, is the time that we get to play. This is my time to get to play. This is my favorite thing that I do in my life, is be online with y'all every week. I love to read your work. I love to see you grow and develop. We've got enough average administrators. We need more great ones. Our goal is for you to be great. I told you that when I first met you last semester. Our goal is for you to be great. I'm so pleased with the work that you've done. I have no qualms. Just make sure you get everything in by next Monday. Shell stays open. I grade every day. That's why I was late getting in today. I was grading your work. I was having such a good time sitting in my office reading your work today. I kind of left a few minutes late, but I do love your work. I love to see what you do. All right, questions?
Yeah, quick question. If we're going to continue to work through the summer, like on our CAP, when is the final date that you said we could turn that in?
Whatever the first day is of starting the next semester, when you switch over to theirs, when you switch over to their shells and you can start using theirs. I think that would be the 28th. Let me see right here. We were talking about that today. I think your class will start, if it starts on Wednesday, as it normally does, unless somebody gets a wild hair and decides to start on Tuesday. The 28th.
Okay.
So you can put things in my shelf between now and August 28th. And then August 28th, you switch over to that shelf.
All right. Thank you.
And I'll grade every day. All righty. It's good to see all your smiles. I enjoy you every week. And so, as always, I appreciate you. I'll see you again soon. Everybody have a good week. Good night.